Hello everybody, I'm Roxy and this is Recommend BS. So today I bring you my June highlight. I read quite a lot in June, although most of the books were short, I admit it. I didn't read anything that I hated, but I read something that I didn't like, but it was quite interesting, so I want to get to that. Let's start with some 5-star books. So I read more than 2 5-star books, which is, unbelievable. I read Of Mice and Men. I don't have the book with me because I checked it out from the library. However, I'm going to acquire the deluxe Penguin compilation of all of Steinbeck's short novels because it was amazing. It's just heartbreaking. It's terrible. Let me tell you, it's absolutely terrible. But at the same time, it's beautifully written. It's heartbreaking and it's everything that literature is supposed to be. So I just loved it. Then I read Malone Dies by Samuel Beckett, which was also quite a gem. This is supposedly part of a sort of trilogy. I didn't know that before I started reading Malone Dies. This is a compilation of the 3 books in the trilogy. That should have given me a clue, but I just thought it's called 3 novels, so I just thought, okay, 3 novels. But I don't know what to tell you. I read Malone Dies only. It's about this guy who's rambling in his deathbed and he's telling you a story that may or may not be the story of his own life. It's fascinating, it's written in a beautiful way because it's Samuel Beckett. His use of language is just superior. And it's funny in the darkest way. A lot of people might find it boring because it's mostly inner monologue, but it's great. I loved it. It's depressing as fuck, but it's awesome. Then I have Einstein's Dreams by Alan Lightman, a novel / compilation of short stories. This book tells the fictional story, of course, of Einstein's dreams while he was coming up with the theory of relativity. It's just beautiful. In each dream there's a different world wherein time works in a different way, and that's the gist. And there are some parts, some interludes, where Einstein itself appears with a friend, and the friend really thinks about Einstein and what it must be like to be like him and think about time in such a odd, strange, foreign way. It's a beautiful short book that I loved. A lot of people thought that it was less worthy of note because some of the times didn't make sense. That's so not the point. It's the realm of the dreams, it's oniric, it's lyrical, it's beautiful. It doesn't need to make sense because at the end, in each world, there is like a moral to be learned and to be absorbed about our own lives. And it's beautiful. Really, it's beautiful. I'm going to do a full review of this one because there are a lot of things that you should know about it, but just know this, it's stunning writing. Then a book that didn't quite reach the 5-star mark for me, but I still found very interesting. Reef is the Thing with Feathers by Max Porter. So this is a experimental fiction kind of book / poetry collection about a family of a father and 2 sons who lose their mother and they're heartbroken, and this image, Crow, comes and looms over them and takes care of them. And it's of course all a metaphor about grief and loss and how we process it and how we deal with it. It's beautiful, it's again heartbreaking, and I really, really recommend it. Then a 3-star poetry collection, Kim Kardashian's Marriage by Sam Riviere. I really, really appreciated this, especially the title. So that's the thing, like I liked the title thing more than some of the poems, but I still think the poetry was good. It's just, hear me out. So this is a book about celebrity culture and internet culture in our time. I think this is a fundamental read. Everyone who likes contemporary poetry should give this a try. It's divided into Kim Kardashian's makeup routine steps, so like foundation, primer, gloss, etc. And the titles are all remixed, because for example one title is Ice Cream Heaven, another is American Sincerity, then in another section there would be like Heaven, Sincerity and American Ice Cream. So it's just genius that way. And then every poem is related to the title, but it's sort of in dialogue with past poems. So it's a great effort, and I think it's so interesting. Of course I didn't think it was like the best poetry collection I ever read, but I still think it's fundamental, and I still think it's so interesting, and it keeps the groove going, if that makes any sense. Anyways, that's Kim Kardashian's Married. Then a book that I didn't like much, but it had beautiful art and that sort of pumped up the rating, was A Cafecito Story by, I don't remember her name. This is a pamphlet really for like cooperative coffee growing in certain parts of Latin America. It's propaganda in a way, but you don't really realize it's actual propaganda until the end. I mean, you can notice the trend, but you don't really believe it is so until it's confirmed. Okay, this is propaganda. It's funny that way. The story was unremarkable. It's manufactured, but the wood carvings were really, really good. It's about an American man who tires of the American way and goes to a much more candid and beautiful Latin American town where they have cafecito, which is coffee, right? Small cups of coffees, and they defeat the big man corporation, and you know, it's propaganda, but I still think it's worth checking out. Not buy it perhaps, but just like as an experience, I don't know. Also, this was in my library, my college library, so yeah. Anyways, let's move on. I'm not going to have a music section, not feeling like it. However, I am going to recommend this movie that I think might be, it's a really old movie, but I think a lot of people might not watch it because of the main character. This is Stranger Than Fiction with Will Ferrell. This is a really soulful comedy about a really regular average man who one day wakes up and realizes his life is being narrated to him. Like he hears a voice and at everything, no, not everything, at some parts of his life, and that's all I'm going to say in case you haven't watched it, but it's fabulous because it talks about life and death, and it talks about comedy and tragedy and literature. So it doesn't talk about it in a way that's too intense, and I love intense dramatic things, but maybe this can provide a break while still being thought-provoking and while still being completely heartfelt. So I really, really recommend it. Again, it's a well-known film. A lot of you might have watched it, but I think it deserves a chance from those of you who haven't, because maybe due to some prejudice. So that's it. I hope you liked this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Comment, have you read these books? Are you planning on? What are you reading? Whatever you want to comment, that's fine. And if you want to check out the Spanish channel, of course, here as always, and see you next time. I'm tired. Ridiculous humor movies, ridiculous comedies.